Hey guys, hello and welcome to another video of Power Automate. So in previous video we have seen how can we create new queue, and in today's video we will see how can we process items into the queue and how can we add items into the JSON format and how the JSON format looks and why do we add the data into a JSON format. So stay tuned till the last of the video and we'll see how can we process the items. So the first step today is we will have to create a new queue. So I have just created a new queue with the name of new queue, right? And I go here. Also, I have a Excel file which I'll share the link of this Excel file. You can download this file from the description link below. So this is the Excel file, and this data we gonna be adding into our new queue, right? So let me just copy its path, and I will just quickly take a CSV file, get the path. Let's just click save and run. Okay, so column names came into the first row. Let me just go into advanced, and first line contain column names. Let me read this again. Okay, so now if you see the data is in correct format. Okay, great. So zero means zero row and work QID is one. So why I have read this, you can use Excel format also, but why I have used CSV is because it's kind of quick and I do not need to apply close CSV file. It will read and automatically close the file. So this is why I have used. Now how the JSON formats looks and why do we add data into the JSON format. Let me just quickly show you. So how the JSON format looks is it is enclosed in the curly braces, right? And here we have the column name. It is in the format of dictionary key value pair. So column name, and here we have the value, right? So this is how the JSON format looks like, right? And you can say column comma, sorry, and column 2, and column 2 will have a value of, let's say, value 2 enclosed in the braces, and then we have third column and so on and so forth. So this is how this JSON format looks. This is how we add data in the Power Automate queue. Why do we add it? So in earlier video we have added data like this. So if you remember from previous video, we have added like this. Now in here we are not sure which value is for which item. So this is the employee number, this is the name, right? So in order to pick this value, we have to give 0. And in order to pick this value, we have to give 1. But in this format, if we want to pick this value, then we can give the name column 1. So let's say my data table is table, right? And I want to pick the this value 1. Okay, so I can give that, okay, table 1 dot column 1. So it will give me the value of value 1, right? So similarly, if I go into the data here, I want to pick the invoice ID, right? So if I, let's say I want the account name, right? So I can give CSV table dot account name, and it will have the value with, right? So this is why we add value to the key value pair or JSON format. Okay, so this is the JSON format. Let's see how can we store value in the form of JSON format. Right, so we have read the CSV. Let's apply a loop on this format. So for each, let's choose a CSV table what we have, and here we have the current type. Okay, so this is the column. Let's read columns. So I'm just reading the columns. If you don't understand, just follow me up, and you will get what we are doing here. Just save and let's run it. Okay, so here we have the column list. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to write it into the form of this, right? So in place of column 1 we have work queue id, and in place of value 1 we will have the value of 1, right? So here we have value as 1. Similarly, in place of column 2 we will have invoice id, and in place of value 2 we will have I01001. So this is how it should look. We will also see why we are doing it in JSON format and how does XSD format looks, but for now let's just make it in this format. Okay, now we have used the loop on CSV table. Let's use the loop on the columns table. Okay, we have this loop and this will be on the columns name, and let's put the value as, let's keep it 2 only. Right now let's use a set variable. Okay, so the value in this would be, let's say, q item we say, and the value will be, so it should be in this format like I said. So it is column 1. Okay, so in this case column 1, column first would be the current item 2, right? So in this case it would be current item 2. Okay, and then it will be current item. Okay, if you are not following this, just do as I say. Let me just save it. Okay, and let's see what value does this gives. Okay, let me just quickly run this. See, what it gives me is work queue item ID. It gives me the column name, right? The first column name, and then it gives me the ID. But I don't need all these value. I just need the first value in this case. So what I will be doing is I will be adding here, if I say for the first value I need the first value as this. Let us run now and let us see what it gives us. Okay, see, this is the value it gives me. Now if I go to next, it gives me invoice ID, but since this is, the 0 is fixed, that's why it is giving me like this. Let me just quickly change this one now. So let me just add a new variable called counter for this, and let's assign value 0. And let me give here the counter. Right, let's just save and run it now. See, it gives me work queue item 1, and then it, okay, current item 0 plus 1 cannot be evaluated. Okay, my bad. It should be inside this. Now let us run. See, if you see, the output is work queue item 1, and then we have the invoice ID, and then we have invoice date, and then we have account name, Then we have invoice. If you see the queue item variable, it is changing, status is paid, right? Then it has work queue key, then it has component state, then it has overtime, and the loop ends. Now for the second item, it again goes, and then so on and so forth. So since counter is out of range, we will build a logic for that also. So for this, let us just write it here. Okay, so we have this format. Now we also, we do not need only one item at a time. We need all the items or all the columns for first row, right? So for this, we will just append queue item, right? And for now, just comma and single quotes here, single quotes here, single quotes here, and single quotes. Okay, now just click save and now let's see what it will give us. So you can apply your own logics, but for now I have just added a logic to, make some items to add into the queue. Right, so now if you see, we have the required format. So this is the column name, this is the value. Again, this is the column name, this is the value, this is the column name, this is the value, so on and so forth. Right, the only thing we have extra is this comma. Okay, we'll remove this comma also. Now let's see what next value it will give us. Okay, counter is out of range again. Okay, my bad here. Let us give 0 here. Let's save and run it again. Okay, so one more variable we have to set. If you see in this variable, we have the initial value 1, 2, 3, and we then have the another value of queue item as 2, 3. So let us just quickly have one more variable and let us set the queue item as you have seen in my previous video. In order to set a null value, we just have to give this expression, and now let's just run it. Right, and now for the next value. Okay, now just for the third value, because first value is gone. So here we have the value in JSON format. Now let's take a queue action, right? Queue and add item to the queue. We will have the number of queues we have. So for this we have queue, new queue, and status should be queued so that it will be picked for the processing. You can set any priority. Okay, if so you can have different logics. Let's say that invoice on the basis of date. Let's say that for current date we can set the priority normal. For date, let's say for March item we have to set the priority high, or and for the next month item we can set the priority low. So this is how we can choose between priorities. So name, what I have explained in my previous video is the name appears up. I click on this, the name will appears up in here, right? So in order to give the name, you can give like any name you can give from the work queue, right? So what I will give is, let me just click save, and in order to identify each item I can give the account name, right? So current item dot account name. Okay, so I can give current item and account name. Okay, and this should be in the single quotes because it's a column name. Input is basically our queue item, but if you remember, it has an extra column. So let it be as it is for now. Processing nodes. Let's say I want to give some processing nodes, right? So I want to give, let's say I want to give the processing node as a status, right? So if you see processing nodes, I can give the processing nodes as status. It has unique ID or references. If you click, if you turn this on, you have to give the unique ID from which it can be identified. The item can be identified, right? If you do not give it, the Power Automatic will automatically assign it. So for now, since we have seen it in previous video how it gives the unique ID, let us assign some unique ID in this case. Let us say we can give work queue item ID, right? Let me just check the spelling name. Okay, spelling is correct. It has some error. Okay, this should be current item. Okay, let's just click save. Now we want to remove that extra column if you remember. So let's use subtext. Get subtext. Original text is the queue item, right? So so we want to just remove that column, right? So that comma is from second character and end of the text, and we have the subtext. Okay, let's just click save. And since we have the subtext now, let me just save this into queue item back again. Okay. One thing we forget is the curly braces. Okay, now let's run our final part. Okay, so this is what is being made. Why I have chosen second is, if you see, there are, so 0, 1 is column, comma, sorry, and from 2 we have to choose, right? So let me just quickly close this, and if I run next action, see, it gives it as remove the first comma only, and it gives me till end of the text. And if I add item to the queue, see, if I go to my queue now, new queue, see, the name is appearing here and the input is here, unique ID is 1, right? And if I click on this input, it is now in the JSON format. And if I with the when I process the item, if I give work queue item ID, it will give me 1. If I write component state, it will give me 0. So that's why we have added this into this item. And if you see, my name is here, and in processing nodes you can see date. So this is how we add item to the queue. Let me remove all these breakpoint and let me just run it quickly. So here we are, all items are added. Let me just quickly go to queue and refresh this. And if you see, there are 30 items, right? If I click on 30, it will have all these items with the name, what you have mentioned in the name, right? And if I click again, it has the unique id 30. So what this unique id will do now, let me just quickly explain you by running this one again, right? So let me just quickly run it again. Okay, so it gives an error, fail to add work queue item to the queue. Why it is it fail? It fails because if you click in here, you have a unique id. So current item work queue item id, this, the value in this is currently 1. And if you go to your queue, and if you go to first item, you already have a item with 1. That's why it failed. Got it? So let's say that you changed the item to 001. Let us try this one. Let me quickly run this. Let's see if it adds the items or not. Okay, it has added the item. Let me just pause this one and go to my queue, and here, see, I think I click refresh. Okay, this one is the item. If you see 001, now the unique ID has changed. That's why it is able to add it. Quickly run it. Let's add more items to the queue. Okay, so more items have been added. Let me quickly go back, refresh it. Okay, I think yes, 030. So this is how we can add items to the queue. Now this process is, you can use this process as a reference, right? If I click just save. Okay, I have clicked save. So here, so what I have done here is I have created one input variable. Okay, in this pane I have given queue file path text, queue file path, and save, and I have given the value queue file path here. Okay, let's just click save this, and I've saved this, and let me just close it. Okay, let's go back and let's create a new flow, call it main process, create, and let me quickly open my file. Let me just change these values to something like, let's start from 100. Okay, let's just save, and let's go back to our flow. Let's call our text flow. Okay, select to queue, select. Okay, so it is asking for a file path. I can just give the file path, copy this path. Okay, and let's just run it. So I have created a process which is add to queue, right? You only have to give the path. You only have to give the input, and it will be common for all the processes you are using in a particular environment, right? You only have to give the path. It will automatically fetch all the column names, all the values, all the rows, no matter how many rows it has, no matter how many columns it has, it will add all the items. See, it has added all the items. Let us quickly check it. Let me just refresh this. Okay, if you see, since we have appended 00, so it has created 019. Now if I run it again, it will throw error, as you know. So this is how we can create a process and add items to the queue, right? So go try yourself out. You can create your own logic to convert the format into JSON format. In the next video, we'll see how can we use another format to convert our variables in JSON format. We'll be using custom object, right? Till then, happy learning, happy automation. Bye. See you in the next video.